Welcome to today's episode of College Financial Preps Preparing for College podcast. Excited today to welcome Lynne Fuller to our show. Lynne is the founder of College Flight Path, and we're going to be discussing a new topic today, and it's about creating the 4-year plan when the kids are finishing up middle school and going into high school. Welcome, Lynne.
Thank you, Vicki. Great to see you again.
Yes, you too. We haven't discussed this topic at all lately. I'm glad that you're bringing light to it. And I hadn't even really thought about so much 8th grade. I have a daughter that's currently in 8th grade. I focus on the finances. This is a great thing to be thinking about, personally and professionally for me.
Oh, good. So what came about in my career was really helping students navigate their post-secondary process. But almost every single time they would come to me as this in the spring of junior year, and their GPA is pretty much done and their activities have been set, and there was no ability to move them or help them explore some of their potential career interests because it's done. And what I started doing and reaching out to families was really in 8th grade or the summer before 9th grade or just at the beginning of 9th grade to really help identify academic interests and a plan that would span their entire 4 years. And I realized that when you have course selection in December, January, February of the student's school year, we then have elective courses that can be leveraged to really help maximize their high school experience. And having that ability to nudge, explore, do some career assessments, and helping them figure out what is their academic identity and what would they like to invest their time into became such a valuable tool that this is why you and I are having our conversation today.
How do you do this? Kids are 13, 14 years old. I can tell you, this with my daughter. She's great in English. She loves music. Where do you go? They don't have that much room to maneuver in their schedules.
They are lumps of Play-Doh or clay at this time that are fully unformed. Yes. But I think what we do is we talk about their life. We talk about their hobbies and their interests. And if they're tinkerers and they play with Legos, or they have enjoyed a little bit of computer coding, or they're really excellent with mixing ingredients and being creative in the kitchen, we can look at these different ways that they spend their time, whether it's spending a lot of time with books, novels, reading, writing, and we can then try to align early year coursework, freshman, sophomore year, because they only get one elective generally, sometimes two, how we can leverage their interest to offer them an exploration of their current hobbies. So then they can start to make decisions. Yes, I like this. No, I don't. This is something I'd like to study more of. And oftentimes we'll be able to put in a club as well. In addition to what your elective coursework would be, can I also then maybe introduce a robotics club? Or if they're interested in biology or animal science, I have a student who joined an animal husbandry club who is learning how to breed various koi and what was the other species? Rats.
Wow.
Right. And you never know what a high school offers. Really taking some time with the activity selection when you have fewer options for electives in those early years, that's where we can start finding some of those career sparks in the end.
Very interesting. So you have the 8th, the 9th grader that's starting to do this, and all of a sudden they think, oh, I don't like this. Then what happens?
We have to look again at why didn't you like it? You can't just say, oh, I don't like to do this. We need to understand the word why. I always love to say that chemistry is the light switch. It is either on or it is off, and people love it or they don't. And so why didn't you like it? Is it having to deal with the bonds? Is it the actual lab work? Is it the math that's associated with chemistry? Where is it in the curriculum that makes you maybe align a little more with environmental science and biology and a little less with chemistry? And so if we can try to figure out the curricular whys, we can then retool into avenues that maybe they're more interested in. Let's say I have a great example of a student who really loves digital media, and they're excellent at editing, but they didn't have any exposure to it other than intro to computer science course in their freshman year. And they're like, maybe I like programming. I'm like, did you see the digital arts and media class that you can take? And then they took that in sophomore year. And then there was a level 2 and a level 3, and it opened them up. There can be these options of, I don't love, but there is a piece of it. And it's analyzing the piece of the likes and the dislikes and having that in-depth conversation that can help us really fine tune where they find themselves in the end.
Do me a favor. Oftentimes I'll have families come to me, the financial piece of applying to college, and I'll just often hear, oh, my kid is undecided yet what they want to do in college. Does this all tie in with helping them find a major?
Exactly. Yes. And I would say identifying your career bands. It's not like you have to operate in one band. People have lots of different career lives that they love to live. And you can make some parts hobbies, you can make some parts side hustles. Sometimes it's your main event. It just depends on how you put all those pieces together. But when we are exploring these different activities and elective courses and core courses, and as you sort of elevate and get into higher levels of the courses, going from a standard course to maybe an honors course to an AP course, for example, or HL versus SL courses in IB, depending on what that looks like, we can help students sort of navigate what is their best bet, because it decreases dropout, decreases burnout, increases student interest and longevity within that field. Offering assessments to students, I like to do the strong sometime in junior year, because then we can figure out what are their strengths and weaknesses aligned in a particular workplace, which then helps them identify majors, which then helps them identify the colleges and universities that offer these programs. It becomes the gateway to what you're doing, which is obviously financial efficiency. How can we get from point A to point B with the most efficient investment possible, right? And that can include a gap year, that can include time off, so they can gain some work experiences and then capture that time period thereafter.
Wow, so give me a game plan. 8th grade to 12th grade, 12th, by the time 12th grade comes, either the kids are taking like all AP classes or they have senioritis.
Sometimes. My hope is that once they get through the application process, which I try to start with them in June of their senior year, so they're really off to the races with their personal.
Wait. June of senior, you mean?
Oh, sorry, June of junior year. Oh my gosh, I said it the wrong way. Thank you. Sorry. Going into senior year. I'm just dealing with seniors now, so I'm going through this currently. But June of junior year, we are starting off the application process. That means that their personal statement is completed, or at least in a second or third draft, by the end of July. So the common
let's back up for a second. For people who have 8th and 9th graders and younger ones, we're talking about applying for colleges right now. Just backing up, because I'm thinking I have an 8th grader. I also have a 24-year-old. It's like two different worlds. The younger parents, all this work that you're talking about is setting up the kids for the best success in college. And you start applying for college and thinking about colleges predominantly end of junior year, right at the end of junior year, and preparing your essays and college applications, right? Common App opens August 1st.
So with all of that, that is that timeline. So if you're starting to think about your career path or starting to think about your major, because that is the crush of the application process, it's too late. So what we want to try to do is to use the coursework, use the electives, use the options, and exploring all of that freshman year, sophomore year. So then that way, when they step onto a campus, my hope is sophomore year that they see their first college campus, just so they could see fit, feel, size, opportunities. They get excited about that. That will then cause the student to lean in more into their activities in high school, or let go of the things that aren't serving them anymore, right? Because you have to become clear-headed on what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And if you're trying to do 15 things in your freshman, sophomore year, and you're overwhelmed by all these activities, is that really helping you? How about like 4 really great activities instead? And how about a job in the summer? because job skills are really important. And then you can decide, do you like that world of work? So you're right, starting in 8th or 9th grade to really plant that seed about, hey, this timeline, as I was going through, is very compact and very busy. If we try to add these things onto it, and it's the first time you're thinking about it, just like the first time you'd be thinking about how to finance it, whoa, it's a recipe for disaster. So let's try to back that up and have little conversations all throughout their high school experience, because then it's the beach entry into career versus let's diving off the high dive into the deep end. It just makes it a lot easier to have those conversations.
So what's your recommendation when parents are talking to their young high school students about courses to take, or any suggestion for parents?
Great question. So I think the saying, don't bite off more than you can chew, is really important here. Start with a freshman load that allows you to have adjustment in mind, because it is a big adjustment moving from a middle school pace to a high school pace. This doesn't mean to back off on all of your courses and take all standard because you're afraid of honors or you're afraid of leveling up, but it means that you have to look at that schedule carefully and identify what is going to be the most difficult course straight out of the gate. And you equip yourselves with supports immediately. Don't wait until a month in when the first quizzes and tests are starting to happen during the mid-marking, i.e., find the math tutor in the summer for the school year. Okay, that's the overt advice. I also think talking about friendship group adjustments, because they're going to happen. Do you involve yourself in team sports or not? What kind of leadership roles can you take on early in school? And it doesn't have to be vice president of a club, but are you homeroom representative? Because every single grade level has a homeroom representative. How can you find ways to start to build some of your sales skills for yourself? Because we all have to be able to sell ourselves and what we're really good at over time. And that can exist in lots of different forms. So I think having those conversations early on and normalizing the adjustment is really important. I will say at the tail end of this process, when you're at the end of your 4-year plan, you're thinking about the next plan, whatever that is, 2-year, 4-year, technical, going straight to work, whatever that post high school experience is going to look like. There is a huge adjustment as well. This is the time when students are now leaving the comfort of home. They have to be able to rescaffold all of what they've done at home in terms of their study hours and moving their body and eating good food. It has to happen again. And now on a bigger scale, because no one's really there to help you. So building those skills of independence and autonomy and leadership all throughout their high school experience then really sets a student up for a very successful launch into their life outside of where you can keep an eye on them every single day.
That's fabulous. I love that. I mean, especially since, I just mentioned earlier, I have two children, both at, the different ends of that timeline that you're talking about. And it's so true. And it's such a wonderful time when they're in high school to see the transition where, they are becoming more autonomous, self-autonomy, and seeing them take on those leadership roles and those friendship groups, and how they take those skills that they learn in high school and move through onto college.
And what I find is really important about a 4-year plan is that it isn't just an academic plan. It is how you involve yourself in your community and how your identity grows with you over those 4 years. And again, you can have that piece where you talk about all of your core courses, your 5 to 7 core courses that you'll take in your electives, but then also where's the slot for music and art? Because sometimes they're before and after activities. They're before school or after school activities. They're not always in the rotation of classes. So where do you make space for that? If you're in morning announcements, that means you need to be at school sometimes at 6:45 in the morning or earlier, so you can be there and prepare your morning announcements for the day or the television show or whatever. So if these are your interests, you have to know what that looks like. So then you can work out your study schedule. You can then work out when is your bedtime every single night. And then it makes it so much better for students because they are way more balanced and they're not totally strung out because they're exhausted because they're up till 1 o'clock in the morning.
So let me ask you that question. Often the kids they join like a million clubs. I don't know how, between, there is no sleep. It's the clubs, it's studying, it's the, writing the essays for their college applications. I don't know how they're doing it. Any thoughts on that? What should kids and parents be striving for at this age?
So again, when you make your 4-year plan, we have to consider the time spent on team sports, the time spent doing these activities. And I'm going to steal a thought from Brene Brown. She says it's not couple centric, it's not kid centric, it's what's good for the family unit. At the end of the day, if a late bus isn't an option, or public transit, or family can't come and get the child, or there isn't a carpool opportunity to get home at the end of the day, and what time does that look like, then you have to consider other ways to engage with that activity, either in a remote space or a weekend space or something else that does work for them. So when you're considering a student's calendar and they overextend themselves, there's only so much to go around in terms of energy and time. It's going to ultimately take away from something else. So usually it's the academic life. And other times it's the social life and building friendship groups and really great, really great relationships with people. So that's where really thinking about what do you want to get involved in? And when you have this amazing platter of options, how do you want to build your individual plate? You can't eat everything. So that's where I think the alignment of academic interests, what are your hobbies and other pursuits, and then how do you build your life around that? And then what are the time constraints on that? And that'll help pick things off the plate that really just don't belong there.
That's fabulous. I've loved having this conversation today. I'm sure we will again. Do me a favor. Tell everyone where they could find you.
They can find me at www.collegeflightpath.com. You can find me on Instagram, where I review colleges and visit them all the time, at College Flight Path on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn at Lynne Fuller.
And thank you so much for being here today. I've loved this conversation. Seriously, we will have it again at some point, I know. Thank you, everyone. So glad you could join us on this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Lynn. See everyone soon. This is College Financial Preps Preparing for College podcast. Take care, everyone. Bye.